In today's episode, Chef Erica will demonstrate her basic knife skills with tips and tricks that every home chef should know.
Get right up there on that blade, choke up on it. That's gonna give you power and control, and that's what you want from a knife. Welcome to the Prairie Street Culinary Kitchen. I'm Chef Erica, and I'm back here today to teach you a few basic knife skills. You know, it's really hard to be a successful, productive, happy cook in your kitchen if you face sort of this idea of cooking as a challenge. And if you have good knife skills, then it becomes a pleasure. So let's talk about basic knife skills. First of all, you want to use a good chef's knife. This is an 8-inch knife. Anywhere between an 8 and a 10-inch knife for home cooks is what I recommend. Anything bigger than that gets a little scary. Anything smaller, you're not going to be that productive. Get yourself a good chef's knife and keep it sharp. That's really important. Now, sharpening a knife for real happens on a sharpening stone or using a specific machine or device. But in between your sharpenings, you always want to use this. This is called your knife steel. This is what refines your edge. Basically, if a chef is working 8-10 hours a day, we have this on our station all the time, and every time I pick up my knife, I give it a few swipes. You want to hold your knife at a 20-degree angle to your steel, and then steadily and evenly go across the whole blade. Make sure you're going what I call heel to toe, like that. Just a few swipes on each side, and then I like to go this way for the other side. But there's a couple other ways you can do it. You can go this way. You can stand it up and pull it like that. Whatever way you do, just make sure you're covering the whole blade and you keep that 20-degree angle. Most knife manufacturers design their knives to be sharpened at a 20-degree angle. Now, once your knife is sharp, you're ready to go. Now, there are a lot of different chef's knives on the market. Here at Prairie Street, we're big fans of Wusthof. It's a German knife company, one of the oldest, one of the best. But there are lots of different knives on the market. There are German, there are Japanese, there are some American brands now. You want to figure out what knife works best for you. What I always tell people is go to the store, find a store that sells different brands, and see what feels comfortable in your hand. The knife should feel like an extension of your hand. If the knife is not comfortable, you're not going to want to use it. Sort of like shoes. You go and you buy those shoes that you just love, and then you never wear them because they're not comfortable. Make that knife be like your favorite pair of shoes. Once you've got that knife, you have to learn how to hold it correctly. So, how to hold a chef's knife correctly. First of all, you're gonna wrap your 3 lower fingers around the handle, and then you're gonna take your thumb and your index and grip the blade, like that. See that? It's like a pinching motion. So I have this knuckle flat against my knife, just like that. And you wanna be way up here on the blade. Don't hold your knife back here like you're afraid of it. Get right up there on that blade, choke up on it. That's gonna give you power and control, and that's what you want from a knife. You're handling 8 or 9 inches of very sharp, high carbon steel. You wanna have control over it. So that's the hand holding your knife. And your other hand is gonna hold your food. This hand, you have to keep it curled. Do what I call spider fingers. Keep those fingers tucked under. If you have longer nails, you can do that. You can drop them behind you. If you don't, you keep your fingers straight up and down. This way, your fingers will always stay out of the way of your knife, and you will not give yourself what I call a permanent manicure. So keep those fingers tucked all the time. Now notice the shape of this blade. It's curved on the bottom. That's because these knives are designed to cut by rocking. It's a forward, continuous rocking motion. What I don't do with a chef's knife is that. What I do is this. It even sounds better. So that's the motion, okay? So we're gonna get started and do some cutting. So the first thing we're gonna cut today is an onion. So think of every recipe that you love, all your favorite foods. What do they all always start off with? Onions. There's onions in everything. Best way to cut an onion, first of all, here's our nice big Spanish onion. You wanna identify the root end versus the stem end. We always leave those roots attached when we cut an onion. So I'm gonna get a good grip on my onion, and I'm gonna take off this stem end, and I'm gliding my knife forward when I cut. This I put in my compost or the trash. Now this gives me a flat surface. I call this my safety base. Stand it up like that. Now it's not going anywhere. It's not gonna roll. Take my knife, and again, I glide forward, and I'm going right through the roots. here's my half onion. Then I peel. Don't struggle to peel an onion before you've cut it in half. You'll just have to work too hard. This way, you have these little corners already in place and you just peel. There is my peel. Now when I teach, I'm a cooking school teacher and I've been teaching for 20-something years, and the thing people always ask me is, Chef Erica, how do I prevent myself from crying when I cut in onions? There are two factors involved in cutting onions to prevent crying. Number one, your knife has to be sharp. The sharper your knife, the less you will cry. People cry because they use a dull knife, so keep those knives sharp. A dull knife is going to crush through those cells and bruise them. A sharp knife is going to slice cleanly through them. The crushed cells give off more sulfur. Hits the air, burns your eyes. So, sharp knife. The second thing is cutting properly. How we cut the onion really matters. So let's talk about that. Now, if I were just slicing, if I needed sliced onions for something, I was making onion soup or I was doing sauteed onions, I would curl up those fingers, I would take my knife, and I would start slicing. And I glide forward. I never crush down. That's also what prevents the crying, is that forward gliding motion. And I cut what I call rainbows when I cut this way. So that's if I needed sliced onions. But very often we need to dice, and this is the one that's hard for people. I turn the onion around. This is why I left that root on. That root is so important, it locks the whole thing together. I'm gonna use the very tip of my knife, and I'm gonna start making parallel cuts going across the onion this way, but not going all the way through the back. Now, the width between those cuts determines your final dice. Think of a dice, it has 6 sides. This is your first 2 sides. So I take my knife and I start cutting these parallel cuts going into my onion. And even here, I'm not jamming my knife down, I'm actually gliding it forward, or I can pull it backwards like that. Now, this is a fairly large onion, so I'm also gonna very carefully make a few horizontal cuts. This is not required. This is optional when you're dicing an onion. It just gives you a slightly more kind of perfect overall dice shape, but some people feel a little nervous about this cut. If you do, don't do it. Now I've got all my parallel cuts ready to go. Now I turn this back with the root away from my knife hand, and I'm gonna go back to that forward slicing motion. So I curl up those fingers for safety. I get a good grip, and I start again with my forward slicing motion, and voila! There is my onion dice. So these I did about 1/4 of an inch, or about 1/4 to 1/2 an inch, and I have this very even dice. If I had cut more narrow parallel cuts, I would have a smaller dice. Conversely, larger, I would have a larger dice. So that is how you dice an onion. Now I'm gonna get this cleared off and we'll move on to our next knife skills drill. Okay, so we've got some onions diced. I showed you how to slice. Let's move on. Also, notice I am not crying, not a single tear. I didn't even get a twinge of tear because I have a very nice, good quality, sharp knife. Okay, what goes with our onions in every recipe? Garlic. So let's do some garlic. This is a whole head or bulb of garlic. When you break this up into individual pieces, these are called cloves of garlic. I know you probably know this, but I've been teaching a really long time, and you'd be surprised what people don't know. So, individual clove of garlic. When a recipe calls for garlic, it will refer to it by the clove. I have had students where they take a recipe that says 2 cloves of garlic and they put in 2 whole heads of garlic. So, vernacular. Words are important. So here's my clove of garlic. Now what I want to do with this is I want to look for the root end. Again, remember on the onion, we looked for that root end and we kept it attached. With garlic, we look for that root end, but this time we take it off. So I take my knife, proper knife grip, curl up these fingers, and I'm gonna cut off that little root end. Sometimes it looks indented or sort of hollow. Once I remove that, I'm gonna put my knife on top of my garlic and just sort of like you're knocking on the door. Don't kick the door in, just knock, be polite. Little tap. That's gonna crack my peel. My peel comes right off, just like that. Then I'm gonna take my garlic again. This one's a little on the larger side, so I'm gonna take half at a time. Put my knife on top of it again, make a fist, and smash it up. just like that, and I'll do my other one, smash it up. Your garlic will basically just kind of flatten out, explode under your knife. Then reorganize, and then we're gonna go into mincing. So I use this hand now, keep my knife steady, and I just go up and down, and you sort of move your knife almost like a windshield wiper kind of pattern. Like that, back and forth, until it's as small as you want it to be. Do a little organizing here, tidy it up, and back and forth, just like that. So here's our minced or chopped garlic. Now, we're a meat company, right? We do a lot of recipes and we do a lot of cooking of larger cuts of meat, lamb racks, whole roasts, things like that. What is more delicious than a garlic crusted roast or lamb rack or a lamb chop or a veal rack or anything? How do you make a great garlic paste for cooking? There's a few ways to do it. One, you could, roast your garlic and squash it up. We'll be doing that in another video very shortly. Or you can take your minced garlic and you can actually add some kosher salt to it. Kosher salt is nice and coarse. And what it does is it actually breaks down the garlic. So I'm gonna just start chopping that up with the kosher salt. And what you'll see happening here is the salt will start to disappear into the garlic, but it acts almost like sandpaper. It kind of breaks the garlic down. It's like a little abrasive, and you can mince that up, and then you can just take kind of the side of your knife and give it like a little smear. Just give it like a little rub like that, and then pick it up, rub, and like that. If you ever want to make a Caesar salad, this is a great way to start a Caesar dressing. Or you just take this delicious garlic paste now, just like that. Mix it with some breadcrumbs, some herbs, a little bit of Dijon mustard, put that on your lamb rack, or just smear this like right on like a whole fillet of fish, pop it in the oven for a few minutes. It's just another delicious little way to add flavor to your food. Okay, we're gonna move the garlic paste out of the way, clean up our board, and then we're gonna move on to some more knife skills. Okay, so now back to knife skills. What's next? How about some potatoes? Meat and potatoes, people. That's what it's all about. We're a meat company and we love our potatoes with our meat. I'm gonna show you how to wedge this up so we can put it in the pan and roast this potato along with all of our beautiful larger roasting cuts. Our veal rack, our lamb rack, our French roast. Anything where you're putting a nice big piece of meat in a pan, putting it in the oven for a while, you may as well take advantage of that pan and those beautiful juices and roast some vegetables. So this is what's called a Yukon Gold potato. These have a great waxy texture. They have really nice thin skin. You don't have to peel them. Potatoes are round and rolly, so we want to be very safe and careful when we cut. So I get a good grip. I'm going to move forward, and as soon as I have a flat surface, let's use that safety base. Then I'm going to go in half again. Notice I'm always cutting, moving forward, and then I'm going to cut this one more time into wedges. You always want to think about your surface versus your mass, right? I don't want anything that's like too big and chunky. I want to have sort of a nice balance of surface and mass when I'm roasting. So just like that and just like that. So there's our potato wedges, and these are going to be great in our roasting pan. Maybe I'll do, a nice big celebratory something for a holiday coming up. And then the final knife skill that I want to show you today is just how to chop parsley. I love to use parsley as a garnish, but I also love to mix it into dishes. It actually adds a good amount of flavor. And did you know that parsley is actually super high in vitamin A? It's actually really good for you. So I like to use herbs very liberally when I cook. This is flat leaf parsley. There's flat and there's curly. I prefer the flat when I cook. And I'm a thrifty cook. I don't like to throw away or waste too much product, so I'm okay using some stem in my parsley. These big, thick stems, I'll save these. If I'm gonna make a chicken stock or a chicken soup, I'll put these in there for flavor. So I never throw those away. I would save those. But I'm gonna take a little pile of my parsley leaves with some of what I call the kind of minor stem. And what I'm going to do here is I'm gonna bundle them up. So I'm just kind of organizing the parsley in a little pile. And then I'm gonna just make like a little bundle. I'm rolling it up on itself like that. Then I'll take my knife and I'm gonna go right back into that clean, even slicing motion. This is giving me tiny little ribbons of parsley. This is a technique that has a fancy name. It's called chiffonade. And this is how I would cut anything that's leafy. basil, parsley, cilantro, or larger things, kale, collards, any type of leafy green. You stack them, you roll them, and then you chiffonade. This is especially important for parsley and for basil because parsley and basil both don't like to be chopped, right? I would never just do that like I did with my garlic because that bruises my parsley and my basil, makes them sort of muddied, and you actually lose flavor. This gives me nice fluffy little ribbons of parsley that I could then maybe mix with my garlic paste and some breadcrumbs and make a beautiful crust. Or I can wait until my meat comes out of the oven and then just give it a nice little sprinkling. So there's today's knife skills lesson from the Prairie Street Culinary Kitchen Cooking School Edition. I'm Chef Erica, and you know, we do post new videos every Sunday at 2 o'clock on our YouTube, so you should check us out. Like us, subscribe, comment. We love reading your comments. Let us know what you're thinking. Let us know what you're cooking with our product too. And check us out on our brand new website at prairiestreet.co. There you can see all the incredible products that we have on offer. Check out all our new video content every week. We have tons of content already up and tons more coming. We love to shoot video as a company, so every week we're going to be bringing you new content. You can see all sorts of recipes, techniques. We're very excited about what the future has to hold for Prairie Street, so we'll see you again.
Subscribe to our channel now and set your notifications so you don't miss our latest recipes and chef-led tutorials. Then head over to prairiestreet.co to shop for your next big meal.